As you can assume, we have a lot of questions. There is this fun question which says, you are such a great economic influencer, why haven't you ever thought of being the finance minister of India? Which I think you should answer so that we can get at least that audience question out of the way. No?
I'm in business, not in politics.
Okay. All right. I thought we'd do this a little differently. I've got questions for Mukesh. These are not audience questions, these are my questions. And I've arranged them in order of difficulty, A, B, and C. A, least difficult, C, most difficult. If you want to call them otherwise, you can call A, Simi, B, CNBC, and C, Sebastian. Some of you will know why these names have been chosen. So I'm going to pick these questions out at random and answer them so that we can have some fun. Okay, this is a CNBC question, right? Which means it's B, moderately tough, very focused on business. You spoke about the huge amount of investment that you've made in Jio. And there have been questions asked in several quarters about your ability to recoup this investment and how much time it would take. But you are, everyone knows how shrewd you are a businessman. So it's highly unlikely that you would be doing things for charity. So how soon do you expect Jio to turn profitable?
Well, Jio's results are declared every quarter now. And you can see the trend. And you watch the next few quarters. You will learn in January and you will learn in March. I don't want to predict, but I think we're ahead of our schedule in terms of the returns that we are generating.
Which should we watch closely, Jan or March? I told you this was a CNBC question.
Watch all the 3 quarters. Yeah.
All right, this is actually a fourth category of question. We are going to a slightly more difficult one because, like I said, one idea is to provide people here some insight into what you're thinking and how you make decisions. How do you decide how to enter a business? You spoke about all these interesting new areas that are emerging. What are the parameters a business has to meet before Reliance decides it wants to enter it?
Well, I think the Reliance DNA started from my father when he founded Reliance. And at that time, is ingrained into us that as a business, you must solve problems. And the economic value is more a byproduct of that. So if you look at the history of Reliance, we started with clothing people. We started with textiles. We went into developing the textile industry. We then built our refinery, which was really energy security. We solved the problem at that time in terms of India not importing diesel and petrol. And if we look at our own entry into retail, it was linked to the need for employment creation. And as our balance sheet becomes stronger, right, we still look to solve problems, to create societal values. And now I challenge myself and our people to solve the more difficult problems. And we can take some risks. So what we did with Jio is really we put in and not many in the world had backed us, but as I just explained, we are strong believers that if India and 1.3 billion Indians have to participate in this new world, right, for us, we cannot always have the data infrastructure 20 years after the world. We would have no chance. Today, we have, along with Rajan and Kumar, along with all of us as one industry, I think that India in terms of data infrastructure will be ahead of the US by 2019. And so as we move forward, we think about more and more difficult issues that create value for all Indians. And I talked about, I think that agriculture is difficult, and that's something that needs to be taken. Education is important, and healthcare is the most difficult. So we would clearly think about what we can do in each one of these areas.
Okay, follow-up to that question, which is also a CNBC question, which is, you spoke about creating value for all Indians. I think it was earlier this week, last week, one of your rivals in the telecom business had an interview in a newspaper where he spoke about Jio actually destroying 50 billion of their value in the telecom business. And there is this perception that is there of Reliance entering into businesses and fundamentally disrupting them and destroying the competition. Do you think that would be an accurate assessment of what's happened in telecom?
Correct your questions many times. Sunil is a good friend of mine, is not a rival. Right?
A business rival.
I don't think of businesses sure. In terms of... the second piece is, I think that, again, what he said and what I think you are interpreting is different. But just to make my point of view clear, I think that for all of us within industry, right, profits and losses are risks that we take. And I don't think that we can rely on regulators or governments to guarantee our profits or losses. To me, what is most important is, do we really move the country forward? And does the consumer gain? And I think that the question as a journalist that you should be thinking about is that even if there are profits and losses, who gains and who loses? And as long as the consumer gains and the country moves forward, it's worth taking those losses, right? Some of us are big boys, we can afford that.
Yes, that is true. All right. Okay, this question, because you're often referred to in terms of, I mean, a lot of people define you in terms of your wealth. I've seen a lot of descriptions that define you. What does money mean to you now?
Well, frankly, money has never meant much to me. I abhor the labels and the titles which all of you referred to me.
I haven't used it even once.
In terms of where we are. But to me, resources, right, enable you to take risks from a company point of view to which you would have not done. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility. On a personal level, very few people know this, but my sister Nina is somewhere in the audience. I have, from childhood, right, I have, in school and together now, I have never carried money. So I don't have a credit card, I don't carry cash in my pocket. I always have somebody around me who pays for me. So that works.
Okay, so we know who wasn't in the queue last November, right? Okay, there are at least 3 questions here which have come from the audience, which I've spoken about what you, in the course of your speech, you also mentioned agriculture, and all of them are saying it's clearly an area where there's so much to be done. Why doesn't someone like you, why doesn't someone like Reliance get into that area in a really significant way and make a difference?
See, I think that, and what I said is, and things that I genuinely believe is that this is a time where things are coming together. There are combinatorial technologies without really covering the landmass with data technologies, without the sensors at the right price, right? Without an overall vision, like, you know, things have to come together. And I think that things are coming together. And India is a great opportunity. And surely, as Reliance, this is a difficult problem to tackle. But we are ready to take on difficult problems. And we are, it's very much on our roadmap. We're building all the resources. We think through we just don't jump into anything. We think through it carefully. But agriculture, education, and healthcare, all 3 are on our roadmaps, which are, to my mind, the most difficult problems.
Yeah, they're very fundamental problems.
And they impact all,
but
like
you
a
are
majority of our people.
You are thinking in terms
absolutely.
of that. Because both in education and healthcare, you have these little foundational experiments that you've done, but and I don't think, all three are probably areas that can benefit from the kind of scale that you usually bring to businesses.
Absolutely. And also what we will be able to do in the next 5 years in terms of just raw usage of technology. And if we can solve, this is the most difficult problem to solve. If we can solve it in India, we can pretty much use that anywhere else in the world. And that is why I say India has the opportunity to lead the world, right? We have the opportunity first to solve it in India and then take it to the rest of the world.